Well, I didn't mean to do it. I didn't intend to start a YouTube site at any age, let alone at 85. First, some background. I spent most of my career in music education. I left school at the age of 15 and I started working as a junior postman, or what's called a telegram boy, for the General Post Office, and then I worked as an assistant in a music shop. After national service with the RAF as a radar mechanic, or Sparks, in Germany, I qualified as a teacher and spent the rest of my career teaching music, first in schools with 11 to 17-year-olds, and then in higher and university education with students and teachers aged 18 upwards. When I started teaching in 1959, the emphasis was very much on singing for the National Songbook, introducing children to popular classics and some basic music theory. From the early days, I used the guitar as well as a piano to accompany songs, and at the time, that was quite unusual. As time went on, the emphasis changed to classroom instrumental work and creativity, and later I became heavily involved in the development and use of what was then called new technology, that is, the use of electronic keyboards and other instruments, synthesizers and computers in both schools and colleges of education. And this democratised music education, changing it from being a largely recreative activity to a creative one. Instead of singing other people's songs or playing other people's music, children could create their own, very much like art in schools. Moving on, I retired from my post as head of music at what is now a university and devoted my time, together with my wife and some friends, to renovating an old farm property in the Dordogne in France. That came to an end when I was diagnosed with esophageal cancer. Fortunately, the prognosis that I might only have 3 months to live proved a little premature, and after a lot of unpleasant treatment, I recovered. My wife, of 30 years, was less fortunate. And 4 years later, and despite treatment, she died from leukemia 3 months after diagnosis. Back in the UK, I became involved in the University of the Third Age, the U3A, which is an international organisation for those no longer in full-time employment and now able to do the things that they didn't have time for when they were working, or to give back to the community whatever skills or experience they might have. It's amazing the number of people I've met who said that they always wanted to play a musical instrument, or that they regret having given up learning one as a child. So, amongst other things, I started a beginners guitar group and a musical theatre group, for which I wrote 4 and the music for a 5th full-length musical comedies. I then realised that for older people, the ukulele was far more practical than the guitar, which seemed to get increasingly heavy with age. Mine, that is, not the guitars. I passed the guitar group on to somebody else, and I started a beginners ukulele group at my local U3A branch. I was fine until the pandemic hit and the group could no longer meet. The only way to sustain interest was by making videos and posting them to all members, and that seemed to go down well, and I also posted a couple on YouTube and got some positive responses. The pandemic went on, and I wasn't getting any younger. And when restrictions on meetings were finally lifted, I passed the running of the group on to others, but continued making videos targeting ukulele sites that have a presence on YouTube. To my surprise, I discovered that I now had a YouTube site. I was quite excited when I got 12 subscribers. That's how I started. Playing the ukulele and other instruments when you're older has enormous physical and mental health benefits. And the ukulele is one of the easiest instruments to learn, even in comparative old age. It helps to increase, or at least maintain, memory, cognitive awareness, physical movement and coordination, oral skills, self-respect, self-discipline, and also gives a focus to life and a reason for older people to get up in the morning. When joining with others in the many hundreds of thousands of ukulele groups that exist all over the world, it also boosts social activity, the feeling of still being part of a community, and gives great joy and personal satisfaction, even just playing 2 or 3 chords. All of this, plus adding a bit of extra awareness about history, geography, changing social and moral norms, and even a bit of maths. Playing and singing at the same time, of course, is not for everyone, but you can also play as a duet, one person playing and the other one singing. And in any case, you don't have to be able to sing. You can all download for free my beginner's guide to playing melody harmony style, where you play both the melody and the chords at the same time, and it's not as difficult as you might think. Because I love and always loved teaching, I developed a formula for my videos, choosing a song, talking about its history, background, and then going on through all the various chords, rhythms, strumming patterns and so on, and showing how best to play them. Some songs only use 2 simple chords, others 12 or more. YouTube recommends the making of thumbnails which are as visually attractive as possible, and I enjoy making them as well, using various programs and techniques. That, however, is not necessary, and many people create posts that are just straight videos with automatic thumbnails. Are there any downsides? Yes, of course. Because of the kind of content I have, making a video takes a lot of time. In researching the songs, making sure I can play and sing them reasonably well, learning to record, and particularly to edit. It can be a bit of a learning curve. But as it happens now, I do have the time. My site will never be a big one. It currently has over 700 subscribers, but I'd like it to reach 1,000, which will make the site much more visible online. And I've so far made over 190 videos. My video tutorials on the playing and enjoying of the ukulele get anything between 100 to 2,000 to 3,000 downloads, and since I've started, over 63,000 people have watched them, which is considerably more than I was able to reach with a group of about 20 U3M members meeting every 2 weeks. You need, I think, to target your audience and stay true to your own personal passions. So I aim my site at older people, 55 to 65 and above, and especially less experienced players. And I include some basic music theory to help them. The content ranges from older songs no longer in copyright, from the 1920s, right up to the 1990s. And I only sing songs that I like, that are part of my heritage, so they're not to everyone's taste, although many younger players also do seem to enjoy the more melodic music of these older times. Another downside is that it's best to set up a dedicated space, albeit a small one, where you can set up lights and microphones if you use them, and don't have to spend time starting from scratch each time. I used to use 2 expensive microphones, but now I found that I can record directly to a MacBook Pro, currently running Sonoma 14.6, and the quality of the built-in microphone is really excellent. For lighting, I just do natural daylight from a window, supplemented by 2 watts fitted with 6 watt daylight bulbs. You can also just use your phone. There can also be a steep learning curve which takes time and effort, especially with editing. You always make mistakes, hesitations which will need editing out. Some editing programs are quite easy to learn to use, like iMovie, which comes free with a Mac computer or an iPhone. Others may take longer to learn, but give more opportunities, like Wondershare Filmora or the free DaVinci Resolve. But there are many, many others. Recently, I've been experimenting with changing the background, first using a green screen, and later using AI into artificial intelligence to remove the background of my rather messy study and replace it with alternative locations or special effects. That again is not necessary. Uploading your video to YouTube is surprisingly easy, but again, it can take time, especially if your internet connection is slow. But there's plenty of help showing you how to do this online. Can you make money with YouTube? Well, certainly you can. And people with large followings, I believe, do. But for me, it's just a hobby. Everything I put on my site is free to download, to use, or to pass on to others. And it's great to get positive feedback and responses from fellow enthusiasts all over the world. Sometimes I feel a little guilty for this because I know some people have their channel as a source of income. But for me, teaching and helping people learn and explore has always been a vocation rather than a job. So I hope they will forgive my very small contribution. If you have enthusiasm about subject, travel, gardening, do-it-yourself projects, history, personalities, pets, or just your take on current events, you too could start at any age. I started my site, albeit accidentally, aged 85. That was 5 years ago. I'm still having fun. There's a link to all my videos, tutorials in the comments box. Thanks for watching.